Are you ready for what would be the most significant currency event of our lifetime? Today, in 2025, we may be witnessing the beginning of a global currency reset, and if so, it's already reaching ordinary people. That's right, Phase 1 of what many are calling RV now is reportedly underway, and the so-called Tier 4B exchange process is now being made available to individual holders of the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong. In this video, on Iraqi Dinar News, we'll dive deep into what this means, how the process is said to work, and what you need to know to prepare. Stay with me until the very end, because I'll break down the risks, the timing, and what action steps, if any, you might consider. You won't want to miss what unfolds next. First, let's make sure everyone understands what we mean when we say RV, Phase 1, and Tier 4B. RV stands for revaluation, an official recalibration of a country's currency value relative to global standards. It is not just slight appreciation, but a possible dramatic adjustment. Phase 1 refers to the initial stage where select categories of holders are invited into the exchange process. Tier 4B is the designation many insiders use for individual or retail-level currency holders, everyday people who own physical notes of Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong. According to circulating reports and financial networks, this is the moment when those individuals might finally be eligible to exchange under the new revaluation rate. Whether the reality matches the speculation remains uncertain, but many believe this is the time ordinary investors have been waiting for. Now, let's look closely at the Iraqi dinar. Over the last 2 decades, Iraq has worked through wars, reconstruction, and economic restructuring. The notion among some currency watchers is that Iraq is positioning itself for a shift away from heavy reliance on the US dollar, especially in oil transactions. They point to steps by the Central Bank of Iraq to modernize banking infrastructure and accumulate foreign reserves. Under the RV scenario, those moves are often interpreted as groundwork for a sudden strengthening of the dinar. Thus, the belief is that when Phase 1 becomes active, the value per dinar could be much higher than what has been accepted in the open forex markets. Turning to the Vietnamese dong, the narrative is somewhat similar but with its own context. Vietnam has experienced robust growth, becoming a hub for manufacturing and trade. Its integration into global supply chains and steady export performance have bolstered its financial standing. Proponents of the RV theory suggest that the Vietnamese government may be preparing to revalue the dong as part of long-term currency reforms. If that is true, then Vietnamese dong holders could be beneficiaries of a sudden upward shift in valuation. In the context of Tier 4B, this means some individuals holding dong might be invited into a revaluation exchange process in tandem with dinar holders. So what does the Tier 4B exchange process reportedly look like? According to the reports circulating among independent currency groups, individuals must first hold physical currency notes, not merely electronic balances or bank credits. They may need to present original, authentic notes, possibly with unique serial numbers or certificates. Then those holders might contact official or semi-official exchange centers or designated banks. Many are saying appointments will be scheduled. At the appointment, the currency is verified, and depending on the terms, it might be exchanged for approved currencies or deposited funds under the new revalued rate. Some versions of the story suggest 2 types of payouts: immediate liquidity at a lower bonus rate or structured higher payouts over time. Let's walk through a hypothetical example for clarity. Imagine you hold 1,000 zalos in Iraqi dinars in physical form. Under the current rate, that amount might not be worth much in convertible currencies. But if Phase 1 Tier 4B becomes live and an exchange center offers, say, a revaluation rate 100 to 1 over the old rates, for example, that same 1,000 dinars might suddenly convert to some greatly increased amount in US dollars or other global currency. However, there might be trade-offs. Perhaps only 50% of the value is payable immediately, and the remaining is structured over months or years, or subject to conditions. The promoters of the scheme believe early participants might secure advantageous terms that later participants won't see. What are the signs that this process is beginning now? Advocates point to increased noise around banking systems making upgrades. They note activity in certain financial institutions adjusting their foreign exchange modules. They mention rumors of internal memos to bank branches to start preparing for new currency flows and exchange windows. Some individuals claim to have received communication or appointments from so-called authorized exchange desks. Others point to regulatory filings or government statements on currency reform and updates to banking infrastructure software. Combined, these signs are interpreted as evidence that the Tier 4B phase is no longer hypothetical, but active. Of course, there is strong skepticism too, and valid reasons to be cautious. Many economists argue that for a currency like the dinar to jump significantly, Iraq would need to show sustained macroeconomic stability, controlled inflation, balanced trade accounts, strong reserves, and confidence from global markets. Critics point out that if this kind of dramatic move were happening, it would likely be flagged by mainstream financial media and central banks. They warn of the many scams that prey on optimism, especially for currencies considered exotic. Some regulators have issued warnings against speculative currency revaluation schemes, so it's essential to separate hopeful rumors from credible, verifiable facts. Let's also consider the timing. If Tier 4B is active now, there may be deadlines or windows during which holders must act. Some narratives suggest that early exchange windows will close or shrink after Phase 1, meaning delayed actions could lose favorable terms. Others propose that later phases will open only to institutions or large investors, leaving retail holders locked out. In many of these descriptions, the initial phase is presented as a limited time opportunity. Therefore, proponents say timeliness is critical. But again, these are claims, not certainties. Practical steps many people are being advised to take include gathering proof of possession of physical currency, verifying authenticity, collecting serial number records, and preparing identification and bank account details. It's also suggested to monitor communications from banks or currency authorities that might release instructions or appointment options. Some suggest contacting local exchange houses or central bank branches to verify whether they are participating. Others are advised to keep calm and avoid paying for services claiming inside access. Many such offers are likely fraudulent. Remember, any claim of guaranteed huge returns is a red flag. Let's talk risk management. If you already own dinar or dong, one strategy is not to overcommit further funds until more credible proof emerges. It's reasonable to set a tolerance. How much are you willing to risk if this scheme fails? Diversifying would be wise. Do not borrow money to increase holdings in speculative currency. Be aware of scam tactics, pressure to pay fees up front, requests for secrecy or non-disclosure agreements, or promises that seem too good to be true. Is the counterparty transparent, recognized by regulators, and verifiable? Keep good records and receipts. If tax obligations arise, what could go wrong? Many things. The revaluation may never materialize. The exchange process may be delayed indefinitely. The rate offered may be far less favorable than promised. Counterparties could disappear. Some currency may be rejected as invalid. Governments or regulators may intervene or cancel the plan. Even if a revaluation occurs, conversion might be restricted or liquidity limited. In short, the fantasy of overnight wealth hides serious potential losses. Always treat such rumors with healthy skepticism and patience. But if everything goes as optimists hope, what might be the upside? For dinar holders, a successful RV could translate into a dramatic increase in the dollar value of what was once considered a low-value currency. Someone holding physical notes might suddenly hold convertible wealth. That could be life-changing for many. For dong holders, depending on how aggressively their valuation is applied, similar gains are imagined. Moreover, if this movement is part of a broader global currency reset, the ripple effects could impact many currencies, not just dinar and dong. Because of that, some believe early participation might offer outsized advantages. From a broader macro perspective, a move like this would likely involve cooperation among multiple countries and central banks. For one currency to revalue dramatically without undermining global financial stability mechanisms of support would be needed. Some narratives claim they are behind the scenes bases of funding, reserve backing, or mutual agreements in process. Again, none of this is confirmed by mainstream institutions. If global financial networks are involved, we should eventually see coordinated policy announcements, international investment flows, and media coverage. Until we see that, these remain speculative stories. Now, how might governments and regulators respond? If the speculation picks up, central banks may issue statements denying or confirming. Regulatory bodies might issue warnings. Some countries could impose controls or restrictions on large currency trades. Others might slow the process to manage inflationary risk or capital flight. There could be legal concerns or audits. Authorities may insist on stricter verification and procedures. Potential participants should be ready for shifts in rules or sudden announcements that change the landscape entirely. It's also important to emphasize timing and patience. Even if the Tier 4B window is open now, the full revaluation and exchange flow could take weeks or months to materialize. Often in speculative finance, the promise comes early and the execution lags. That means those hoping for rapid turnover may be disappointed. Maintaining discipline, staying informed, and avoiding emotional decisions is key. Being ready doesn't mean rushing in blindly. It means preparing, watching, and verifying. Don't let FOMO drive your decisions. To help you stay ahead, I recommend several steps. Subscribe to updates from your central bank or treasury. Monitor official statements or currency policy publications. Stay alert in financial news outlets for any communiqué about currency reform. Keep your physical currency holdings in safe, documented storage. Maintain communication with credible advisors or experts. Cross-check rumors through reliable sources, and avoid any service or individual asking for upfront payment promising guaranteed revaluation access. If it's real, legitimate channels will eventually become clearly visible. Let's also address emotional and psychological factors. Many people who held these currencies for years are emotionally invested, hoping for a huge payoff. That desire can cloud judgment and make one vulnerable to persuasion. Scammers thrive on that, so keep a level head. Ask for documentation, proof, official confirmation. Don't commit your life savings based on rumors. Treat any investment in this arena as highly speculative. Be ready for outcomes both extraordinary and disappointing. Protect your stability above all. In conclusion, the story RV Phase 1 and 4B potentially going live right now is fascinating and full of dramatic possibility. If accurate, it could mark the moment ordinary holders of Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong can enter a revaluation exchange process, but the cliff between rumor and reality is steep. The claims are bold, the risks are real. The evidence is suggestive but not conclusive. If you decide to stay in this, do so with caution, due diligence, modest exposure, and readiness for surprises. And always cross-check what you hear with credible information. As we move forward through 2025, this space is likely to become more active. New announcements, confirmations, and maybe even the first wave of Tier 4B exchanges may appear. I will be covering all of it step by step here on Iraqi Dinar News. If you're holding dinar or dong, or simply curious about how this plays out, stay tuned. Drop your questions in the comments, and I'll address them in forthcoming videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss updates. Together, we'll watch and evaluate the facts as they unfold.